What's up, guys? How we doing? Welcome back to the Sports Talk with Hawk podcast. The NFL draft is officially over. Some teams answered questions. Other teams gave us more questions. Who got the best grades? Who fixed the issues they had? And who still has to figure out what they're going to do this year? All that and more right now. Here we go. All right, guys, here we go. Welcome back in. Today we are going to do the first full draft reaction for the individual teams. I do not have the visuals yet for them. They are still rendering right now. I will have them for tomorrow's podcast and obviously all the podcasts through the rest of this week. But we're going to go division by division, and my goal is to actually get 2 divisions in each day so we can get them all done, get all the draft reaction done this week, and especially as we look forward to, we'll be in May by the end of this week, as we look forward to the schedule release, which is just over 2 weeks away. So let's start it out. We're going to do the East today, AFC East, NFC East, and we're going to start with the Buffalo Bills. Now, most of their picks I absolutely love. There's really only one that I question, and another one that was kind of iffy, but it was later in the 5th round, so I'm not gonna nitpick that. But their first pick made absolutely no sense. Nick Emanwari, Siobhan Revel, Will Johnson, Azare Thomas, all these players were still sitting here when they drafted Maxwell Hairston, the corner out of Kentucky. He is the fastest corner, but he's also one of the smallest. He's 5'11", 183 pounds. I don't know if he really matches what Buffalo does. Now, he is lightning quick. If he gets his hands on the ball, there is a very good shot it's going back the other way. And I think they're banking on him being able to get interceptions and hopefully take 1 or 2 of them back to the house through the year. Because technically, he's not as good as Revel is. Definitely not as good as Johnson is. But that turf toe was really scaring people. And then Johnson ended up getting drafted to a really solid team. So I don't get this pick. It's the main criticism I have. This one made no sense. I would have figured out how to trade back in this situation instead of overdraft Hairston. There was no reason to draft Hairston in this position. Trade back, see who wanted to trade into the first round. Multiple different things could have gone on here. This one I don't understand. Now, the 2nd round pick, 3rd round pick, 4th round pick knocked it out of the ballpark in my opinion. TJ Sanders, the defensive tackle from South Carolina. If you remember my defensive tackle rankings, Sanders was sitting there as one of the guys I wanted to watch. He's big, he's strong, and he fits the Buffalo defense really, really well. He is 6'4", 300 pounds. Putting him next to Ed Oliver, I think, is a match made in cupcake heaven, because those two, I believe, will be able to handle the line of scrimmage. Then they drafted Landon Jackson, the edge rusher from Arkansas. This guy, to me, he reminds me a lot of Aaron Schobel. Now, one of the things about Aaron Schobel was he was never flashy. He's another guy that's a lot like AJ Epinesa. I think he's got a better first step. I think he's cleaner with his rush. He will be an impact player for the Bills coming off the edge. You put him with Greg Rousseau, Joey Bosa in a 3rd down situation, stunts. The speed will help. He will be able to help contain Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes. This works. And then you got another defensive tackle, which was for depth, the Deion Walker from Kentucky. Those picks were really good. The pick that I slightly questioned was the next one, which was Jordan Hancock from Ohio State. I think he is horrible with the technical position of corner. He's got horrible technique, really bad habits. He likes to jump. He gets lost in plays a lot. His hips go the wrong way. This is going to be a coaching thing, but it's the 5th round, and it was late in the 5th round, so I'm not going to jump all over it too much. I just didn't get with the people that were there why they drafted him there. Now, Jackson Hawes, the next one, was their first offensive pick, and this is to back up if Kincaid and Knox have injuries again. Jackson Hawes, I believe, can come in and fill in a position where they potentially will need him to. 6'5", 255 pounds, really good tight end. He can block, he can catch, simple, clean. I love that pick for them. Dorian Strong, the corner from Virginia Tech, I would have thought would have been drafted first. This guy, he does jump routes a little bit. He played in the ACC. Not great quarterback play, but not bad. But he would take advantage of bad quarterbacks. And in the NFL, all the quarterbacks can make that out throw the way they need to. So if you jump it, you better jump it right. Outside of that, I think he'll be okay. They drafted an offensive tackle, Chase Lunt from UConn. That is for depth. You always drafting a tackle, and I said this the other day. I will never, ever judge drafting an offensive lineman. Ever. It's vitally important. And then they closed it out with another skill position player in Caden Prather from Maryland. So all in all, I'm going to give the Bills a B+. And here's why I don't give them an A. It could be an A if Hairston really works out. I love the next 3 picks. I love Jackson Hawes, Dorian Strong. Okay? I don't put a lot of grades into the 5th round picks. Jackson Hayes, to me, was one of those. He fell, and you ended up getting him, so good for you. I thought he easily could have been a 4th round pick as a tight end. But once you get into the 5th, 6th, and 7th rounds, I'm looking at the value you may have, but I'm not going to grade it nearly as high. I am rounds 1 through 4 guy. That's what I am. The gems you find is how good you are in your scouting department. Sean McVay, Les Snead, the Rams scouting department have found consistent players in the 5th round. That's just doing your job really well, not necessarily knowing ahead of time. I love that they helped the defense. The defense, to me, is actually where the issue is. I believe they need another dominant offensive lineman. I believe they need somebody to help Deion Dawkins. I would trade right now. I think this year is your year. James Cook is going to want money. I would trade next year's 1st round pick for a tackle in the NFL currently that has 2, maybe 3 years left on his contract, or a guard to come in and help solidify the middle of that offensive line. I believe that is their only need that's left, but I will give them a B+. Now, the Miami Dolphins gave me a bunch of questions because they focused on a side of the ball that I didn't think was really the issue. So the number 1 pick was Kenneth Grant, the defensive tackle from Michigan. Now, you could say, well, his best player available. No, it wasn't. Tyler Warren was available for you to bring in and run 2 tight end sets with Jonnu Smith and Tyler Warren and be a running team to help protect Tua. That was not it. You did draft an offensive guard. Jonah, I call him Saliva because I don't want to butcher his name, but the offensive guard from Arizona, which I think was a very good pick. I liked that pick. But then you got Jordan Phillips in the 5th round from Maryland, defensive tackle. Jason Marshall from Florida, corner. Then Dante Trader from Maryland, safety. Then you went back offense. You got Ollie Gordon in the 6th round, running back. I think that's good. They need a little bit of depth. They've got Devon and they got Jalen Wright. I believe Ollie Gordon will be able to contribute if given the opportunity. The 7th round picks, whatever, Quinn Ewers, Zeke Biggers, the defensive tackle from Georgia Tech. So really for them, the only ones I can really judge clearly are kind of the top 2 because everything else was 5th round and back. But if we add the 5th rounds, which was a defensive tackle, a corner, a safety, that's 4 defense and 1 offense in the first 5 picks for a team that really needed offensive line help and really needed to figure out how to protect Tua with everything that has gone on. I can't give them higher than a B, and I'm going to give them a B-. Kenneth Grant is a good player. They did address the offensive guard position, which was a need. Jalen Ramsey is still going to get traded at some point, so I am going to give them a little bit of a pass, waiting on that, but this team hasn't been helped on the offensive side of the ball enough. They've got all skill players and nobody to block what is going to be coming at them. Buffalo just upped their defensive line. Like I said, they need 1 offensive lineman, I believe, to help Dawkins. Miami needs 3, maybe 4. They got 1. So now they need 2 or 3 offensive linemen to really solidify that offensive line. It's going to get beat a lot, and Tua is just going to get injured again. So B- for the Miami Dolphins. The New England Patriots, this is going to be my first A, and it's really simple because they drafted everywhere. When you are a team that is building, getting the value, getting the positions, filling the positions of need is what needs to happen in a draft. Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter did not fall to them at pick number 4. They did not trade out. They drafted Will Campbell, the offensive lineman, because we don't know if he's going to be a guard or a tackle. I think he's going to put him at guard. I really do, because Vrabel knows how dominant Logan Mankins and all those guys, the interior offensive linemen, if they're dominant, you can run the ball, you can stop your quarterback from getting pressure right up his face. That's important. Will Campbell, outstanding pick. Travion Henderson in the 2nd round, the running back from Ohio State. By week 9, I believe he will be the starter and Stevenson will be the big back at the goal line. Kyle Williams, receiver, Washington State, adding another weapon for Drake May. I like Kyle Williams. I like how he plays. I think he could easily be the wide receiver too. Demario Douglas will probably move to the slot, and Stephon Diggs is obviously the receiver number 1 right now. Then they got another offensive lineman who I believe can start and be good. If you put him next to Will Campbell, I think this could be great. They got the center from Georgia, Jared Wilson. I thought the Texans were going to draft him. I really did. I was like, okay, so the Texans will draft him at the top of the 2nd round, maybe top of the 3rd round. They didn't, and he falls to 31 in the 3rd round. Beautiful pick for the. I mean, this is a great spot for Jared Wilson to be able to go and be an offensive lineman like in Georgia. He's definitely going to be a lower center. I mean, we're talking about a guy that's just going to be there. Jeff Saturday wasn't a great center. Okay. Jeff Saturday just did his job. Just doing your job works. Frank Ragnow is considered a better center now than he was, but he's always been a good center. Jared Wilson has that potential, as you guys know, from the rankings that I had. Then they got the safety, Craig Woodson from California. This gives them some depth in the back, on the back end, which was needed. Joshua Farmer, the big defensive tackle from Florida State, depth. Braden Swinson, the edge rusher, LSU, depth. They got a new place kicker, Andres Bragas from Miami. I like this kid. They can keep him around. See what happens with Joey Sly. If he starts getting inaccurate, they can give this kid a shot. Then they went offensive tackle again. Marcus Bryant, the other offensive tackle from Missouri. They got Julian Ashby, a long snapper. They're covering everywhere. And then they got Kobe Minor as Mr. Irrelevant, the cornerback from Memphis. So if we go picks 1 through 4, we have 3 on offense, and 4 on offense. We had 2 on defense, and then the 5th round pick early was an edge as well. So the first 7 picks, you had 4 offense, 3 defense. You covered a variety of positions, getting the best value where you were at. This team knocked it out of the park in the draft. This team is ready to compete. They will make the playoffs this year. This team is going to be coached by Mike Vrabel. This team has Josh McDaniels as the offensive coordinator. I've already put the bet in. They're going to get over the win total, and I've already put the bet in. They're going to make the playoffs. All you have to do is look at what happened last year. Coaching matters. Mike Vrabel takes Tennessee to a AFC championship game with Ryan flippin' Tannehill. Drake May is a lot better than Ryan Tannehill. Tennessee got tired of being told you're an idiot by Mike Vrabel. You traded A.J. Brown. Look at what he's doing now. Yeah, Tennessee, you were stupid. Vrabel was right. And now you've got a coach in Callahan who's not fighting you on stuff, and your drafts are okay. They're not great. You screwed up, and now you want to keep Callahan around even if they're losing because they just don't want a big personality that actually knows football in that building. That's an organization issue. It's never been a Vrabel issue. New England has Mike Vrabel, the guy they want, the guy that puts on pads when scouting players and is like, hit me. He wants to be a part of it. That is a damn good football coach. All right, so that's an A. Straight up, honestly, A+. They hit everything they needed to. All right, the last team in the AFC East, the New York Jets. Honestly, I like this draft. We're going to do rounds 1 through 4. Really, really simple. Armand Membu, offensive tackle, never going to judge. Said that in the original. Mason Taylor, 2nd round pick out of LSU, the tight end. They needed a tight end. Honestly, reminds me a lot of Kyle Brady. Good pick. Like it. Azrae Thomas, the corner from Florida State. Definitely a spot of need right now, especially with nickel corner being the way it is. Arian Smith from Georgia. They lose Devontae Adams. Alan Lazard takes a pay cut, but you got to be younger. Smith struggled with drops. Maybe you can coach it out of him. Maybe you can't. We'll see what happens. I have no problem taking a 4th round pick on a receiver, though, when you definitely need skill position players. Malachi Moore, the safety from Alabama, was the 2nd 4th round pick they had. Depth on the defensive side of the ball. Francisco from Miami, the linebacker, and then Tyler Barron, the edge rusher from Miami. Both of them also drafted to the New York Jets. This was a simple, solid draft. I'm going to give them a straight, solid B+. Yes, the same grade as I gave the Buffalo Bills. It's not an A, but they only had these amount of picks. They only had this number of picks to be able to deal with, and they got different players and needed positions. They needed offensive linemen. They needed a tight end. They needed corner to be able to fill in that rest of that secondary. I believe this was a really smart draft by the New York Jets. So B+. So for those of you keeping track, it's A to A+ for the Patriots, B+ for the Bills and Jets, and B- for the Miami Dolphins. All right, the Washington Commanders, I'm going to give a B, and here is why. They didn't have a bunch of picks, and I based off of what we've been doing, I can really go off of 3 picks because they had 3 picks in the first round, 4 rounds, 2 picks between the 6th and 7th round. Josh Connerly Jr., an offensive tackle. Very important. Very important. Protect Jaden Daniels. Trey Amos, the corner from Ole Miss. Secondary was bad last year. They needed help. Jalen Lane, the wide receiver from Virginia Tech. Some of their receivers got snatched in free agency. They needed to replace them. Good, solid pick in the 4th round, the wide receiver from Virginia Tech. Then they got Kane Medrano from UCLA, the linebacker, defensive help. And then Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, the running back from Arizona, 7th round pick. I'm not really going to judge it. I'm only going to give him a B. That's really all I can do because they only had 5 picks. I love the Connerly pick and I love Amos. Okay, the Lane pick was probably just a B pick. So we're just going to average everything out at this point. Go solid draft for what you had. Obviously, could have been better, but you filled needs. And when you fill needs, you had a successful draft. But it was just that, a successful draft. Now, the New York Giants. And this is going to get split across the board by a bunch of other people because it's all on whether or not you believe Jackson Dart is a QB that should have been drafted. I do. To Brian Daboll, I do. And they filled a bunch of needs. They got Abdul Carter, the best defensive lineman in this draft. The edge rusher fell to them. Got Brian Burns, Andre Carter sitting on that defense. This defense got stronger. They get Jackson Dart. Tommy DeVito or Jameis Winston will not make it through camp. Jackson Dart will have the chance to start after week 4. Russell Wilson will start the first 4 games. I believe this is a Drake May situation. I believe they can win. Tyrone Tracy, Theo Johnson, Malik Neighbors. I believe there's opportunity there. And then they got defensive help again with their 3rd pick, Darius Alexander, defensive tackle out of Toledo. Then they got another skilled player, Cam Skattebo from Arizona State, drafted him to back up Tyrone Tracy. You need depth. I like that pick. Then they went Marcus Mbow, the guard from Purdue, offensive line help, 5th round guy. It's always a toss-up. I'll give you that. It's always a toss-up, but maybe it works. Thomas Fadone, the tight end from Nebraska, simple need fill. Corey Black, the corner from Oklahoma State. I'm going to give them a simple B+ because I believe Jackson Dart was the right pick for Brian Daboll, and I absolutely believe that Abdul Carter will be the most impactful defensive lineman coming out of this draft next to Mason Graham. Mason Graham, I think, could really wreck people with Cleveland because of Myles Garrett being on that team. All right, Dallas. I can't believe I'm saying this. They didn't really screw it up. They really, really didn't. Tyler Booker, the offensive guard from Alabama, they needed it. And they got what I believe was the best pure guard, because Campbell's an option. Got the best pure guard in the draft. So it works. I have no issues with it. Donovan Azaruraiku. Yeah, like I said, I don't try to book it. So Donovan Ez, the edge rusher from Boston College. This is a normal Cowboys pick, but it does. Lawrence left. It does help now that you've got another spot on the other side of Micah Parsons. For 3rd down, you need help. Siobhan Revel, they got that corner from East Carolina that I like, 6'2", sturdy corner. I believe that fits the Dallas defense. Should be able to be pretty good. They did draft their running back, Jaden Blue, the running back from Texas in the 5th round. Shamar James, the linebacker from Florida. Johnny Cornelius, the offensive tackle from Oregon. Jay Toye, the defensive tackle from UCLA. Phil Maffa, another running back from Clemson. So they draft 2 running backs. The running back room had 2 running backs added to it. They already signed Javonte Williams. Looks a little bit better now. We'll have to see how it performs, but looks a little bit better. And then they got Tommy Ake from Maryland, the defensive tackle. I got to give him a solid B. I love the Tyler Booker pick, and I love the Siobhan Revel pick. I really do. I do think that in that 2nd round, they could have drafted their running back and not waited till Jaden Blue in the 5th round. That's why I'm going to stick them at B right now. But the reality is, it wasn't a bad draft for them. It wasn't a bad draft, so we're going to go B. All right, Philadelphia Eagles, the master classmen. Didn't do as much as I thought they would until later. They got Jahad Campbell in the first round, so now they got a middle linebacker that's going to be there for freaking ever. They got Andrew Makuba, the safety from Texas. Great. They got Ty Robinson, the defensive tackle from Nebraska. Now, we didn't talk about this guy. He's 6'5", 288 pounds. He's not big. He is not big. But he is the fastest defensive lineman, which is kind of what they're going for. Big, he's tall, and he's quick. Seems to work pretty well for them. Mac McWilliams, the corner from Central Florida. Shmuel Mondon Jr., the linebacker from Jordan, the underrated linebacker in my opinion. Drew Kendall, the center from Boston College. Really good pick for them. I thought Drew Kendall was really solid. I was kind of hoping there were a couple other teams that would draft him because I believe he is really solid to have as a backup. Give him a year to figure everything out, and I think he could easily be a great fill-in starter at guard or center. And then they're the team that drafted Kyle McCord. I tell you what, I hate this. I absolutely hate this. I was hoping McCord would go to the Rams, hoping McCord would go to potentially the Colts. I love Kyler McCord. His arm is huge. He's got an NFL arm. This could be an underrated pick. It really could. Miles Hinton, the offensive tackle from Michigan, depth. Cameron Williams, offensive tackle from Texas, depth. Cheap depth. Antoine Powell-Ryland, the edge rusher from Virginia Tech, depth. All in all, they did what they needed to do. Philadelphia was just about depth. And I think the Drew Kendall, Shmuel Mondon, and Jahad Campbell picks are the biggest ones. Makuba, I don't know how the secondary is going to work out, but Vic Fangio will figure out how to use him. So they're all good. They're all good. But everything in this draft for Philly was mostly depth, replacing kind of what they lost, but just fortifying what they already have. I mean, great job. You did what you needed to do. So I'll give them a B+. So Washington, New York, Dallas all get Bs. Philadelphia gets the B+ in the NFC East. And that is both of the East now done. Draft reaction for both of them are done. Tomorrow we will do both of the Norths, the AFC North and the NFC North. The draft was wild. Nobody was able to predict really what would happen. I went back through and looked at, I had 10 different mock drafts that I had saved in my Discord server. And I went back and looked, and everybody actually had around the same amount of players correctly picked for the position they went to. Everybody was sitting between 5 and 10, or 7 and 10. The later part of the draft, nobody got accurate. Like, there was from picks 15 on, it was almost zeros. So, this draft was wild. It didn't go how most people thought after you got through the first 10 picks. And everything after that just was pandemonium. And I love it. I love it. We are 2 weeks from the schedule release. We've got 3 more draft breakdowns. And then on Friday, I will give you the fantasy outlook and also talk a little bit about what I want as we work into next year, another year with Sports Talk with Hawk podcast, going into what I call the off season for the podcast, where I slow it down a little bit, go to 3 videos a week, depending on what happens in the sports world, because everything just really slows down. So we're going to talk about that, and that'll be on Friday's podcast. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much for hanging out. Thank you so much for listening. Please make sure to subscribe, like the podcast. I deeply appreciate it. If any of these teams are yours, comment down below what you think of their draft. Fans are always split, and I love hearing what fans say because they're the ones that are spending money on the team. So say in the comments what you think your team did, how you think your team did, and what do you think they still have to do, potentially. Dallas running back room isn't as strong as most Cowboy fans were hoping. But maybe it works. We'll just have to see. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Have a great rest of your evening and make it the best gosh darn Tuesday that you can. For Sports Talk with Hawk, until tomorrow night, I am Hawk, and I am out. Have a great evening.